So here we are again with questions 1, 14, 15, 16. I might get 17 in there. It's possible I might get it in there. I'm not sure. So just got through doing 113, and it uploaded pretty quick because I have 5G in this area here. So it uploaded a little. Dang it. I'm a little bit tongue-tied today. I talked to a friend of mine I hadn't talked to in years, and whew, she's kind of a bit more of a friend in a way, but a love interest, I suppose, but I'm still married, just a friend I grew up with, and it's kind of like our hearts are kind of, anyway, let me just shut up and read this thing. So what is the scandal concerning the Dead Sea? What is the scandal concerning the Dead Sea Scrolls? It says there are 981 manuscripts in a collection known historically as the Dead Sea Scrolls. When they were discovered in 1946 and 47, anti-Bible scholars were sure they would contain a text that disagreed with that of the King James Bible Old Testament text and reinforced their prejudice against it. They were excited that the text of the scrolls would disagree with the text used for God's perfect Bible. But once they began to translate them, they found that their texts agreed with the King James Bible. Therefore, they immediately stopped all translation work and secured the scrolls away from the public access, lest this truth be discovered. In the early 21st century, due to digital photography, the scrolls were photographed and posted on the internet. The scandal about the scrolls is due to the effort being used to prevent it from becoming public knowledge that they agree rather than disagree with the King James Bible. The spirit of the Bible rejectors has a great deal in common with the spirit of evolutionists. NASA has one goal and one goal only: to prove to prove that evolution is true by finding some kind of evidence of life somewhere in the solar system. Every time they land some kind of mechanical rover on another planet, they openly herald that they are about to discover that evolution is true, and they fail every time. This same forlorn hope is found in those who hate the thought that God could or would preserve his words. They find especially insulting that he might do this without utilizing any help from them. Thus, just like the leaders of NASA, every time some new manuscript of the Bible is discovered, before it is even reviewed, they happily proclaim that when it is translated, it will be found to agree with their anti-biblical text and overthrow the head of the King James Bible. This is exactly what happened when the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. Ever confident in their corrupt texts, academia loudly proclaimed that the scrolls would vindicate their position. As soon as it was found that they didn't, those in possession of them ceased all translation work and hid them from the public. In 2014, I was in Quran, that's Sam Gibb, community by the Dead Sea, where the scrolls were discovered in 1946 and 47. Therefore, all to see is an information board telling that the text found was of the Masoretic text, the text of the Old Testament as found in our English Bible, Authorized Version. Along this line, 16 manuscripts of the New Testament were found in Albania in 2008. Immediately, scholarship embraced the hope that they would justify their confidence in the Alexandrian text of the New Testament, that is the false text. As soon as they were found to agree with the Antiochian text as the true text, instead, translation work ceased, and they were quietly added to the inventory of the massive amount of witnesses that testify with the King James Bible. Just like the evolutionary brethren, Bible scholars daily ignore the testimony of history to promote something that they know not to be true. That's how they get the paychecks. That's how evolutionists do it. That's how NASA does it. That's how a lot of people do it. They Like, that's how pharmaceutical companies, there might be a cure for cancer, but no, they got to make a paycheck. They can't continue all that stuff and find a cure because they won't make money. Question 115. It says, I've been told that Psalm 12:7 is referring to the poor people of verse 5 rather than the words of the Lord of verse 6. Is that true? No, it's another lame attempt by the rejectors of God's preserved word. Hey. I was like laying right between my legs. That was weird. The 6th and 7th verses of Psalm are the greatest two verses in the Bible, on both the inspiration as well as the preservation of Scripture. Psalm 12:6, the words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried in the furnace of earth, purified 7 times. Thou shalt keep them, O Lord. Thou shalt preserve them from this generation forever. Psalms 12:6 is God's divine declaration that his words are pure, while verse 7 is his promise to preserve them forever. This promise is paramount to a Christian. What difference does it make if God inspired his word, but then the moment the ink was dry on the last word, he didn't have the power or the resolve to preserve them? Inspiration without preservation is a divine waste of time. Those who despise the thought that God has a perfect book on this planet have a daunting task. How can they convince Christians that the Bible doesn't say what it plainly says? Simple. Convince them that the promise of preservation mentioned in verse 7 isn't referring to the words of verse 6 at all, but rather to the persecuted people of verse 5. Then have that false teaching cemented by placing it as in many modern version translations as possible. Thus we find the following misinterpretations in modern translations today. You, O Lord, will keep them. You will preserve them from this generation forever. NASB. O Lord, you will keep us safe and protect us from such people forever. NIV, 1973. You, Lord, will keep the needy safe and protect us forever from the wicked. NIV 2011. Therefore, Lord, we know you will protect the oppressed, preserving them forever from this lying generation. NLT. You, Lord, will guard us. You will protect us from this generation forever. Holman Christian Standard Bible. You, O Lord, will keep them. You will guard us from this generation forever. ESV. But is this translation correct? Absolutely not. There is no greater light to be had by restoring to Hebrew. Wait a minute. There's no greater light to be had by restoring to Hebrew. Right, okay. The simple fact is that the Hebrew of Psalm 12:7 is third person plural, they or them, not first person plural, we or us. There isn't a Hebrew manuscript in existence that is first person plural. Thus, every one of these modern translations have fabricated a verse 7 that God never said. What that means is that if you are one of those people who like to discredit the King James Bible for what you consider mishandling of the Greek and Hebrew text, then you must know, in fairness and honesty, also discredit these modern translations for producing a reading that is not a translation but a total fabrication of what their opinion of the original text is. Many years ago, I participated in a televised debate at the John Ankerberg show. This is Sam Gibb again. Across from me was Dr. Kenneth Barker, who was head of the committee that translated the new NIV in 73. When I challenged him on his fanciful translation, he got huffy and said, I believe verse 7 is talking about the poor, or verse 5, not the words of verse 6. I never translated it that way. Thus we see that Dr. Barker believes that he can correct the original Hebrew with whatever English he prefers, something people love to bash, which he prefers something people love to bash Dr. Ruttman for saying. But the fact that there is absolutely no Hebrew authority for the errant translations of the flawed modern versions doesn't mean verse 7 is not referring to the persecuted Jews of verse 5. What we need is a final authority in all matters of faith and practice. All we need to do is consult the text of the psalm as it is written. Psalm 12:2. They speak vanity, every one of his neighbor. With flattering lips, with a double heart do they speak. The Lord shall cut off all flattering lips, and a tongue that speaketh proud words. Who have said, with our tongue we will prevail. Our lips are our own. Who is Lord over us? The Jews have always had enemy nations who swore to wipe them off the face of the earth. Even today. The Old Testament is full of heathen kings who sent messages to Israel demanding its surrender and then graphically telling Israel what they will do to them if they didn't. These are the great-grandfathers of today's Palestinians, who are ever declaring they will wipe out Israel. They're Arabs. They're not Palestinians as a state or whatever. They're Arabs of Egypt, even Saudi Arabia, even Lebanon, even Syria, all around, all those surrounding countries. Iran, Iraq. 9 times in 3 verses we find references to the threatening words of the wicked against Israel. You can be sure they were terrified. All they had were written words of God's promise to protection found in his holy writing. Thus, this psalm refers to a contest between the threatening words of the wicked and God's promises of protection in his holy writings. Whose words will stand? So whose words should be taken seriously? Whose words should Israel stake their future on? Whose words would prevail? God lets them know in those uncertain terms. The words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried in the furnace of earth, purified 7 times. Thou shalt keep them, O Lord. Thou shalt preserve them forever from this generation forever. So we see it is God's words that will stand. It is God's words that he will preserve. If he can't or doesn't do that, then no one can take anything he says seriously. Okay. Question 116. Was Matthew originally written in Hebrew? Nope. But it was then the scholars that are setting in the Greek version as inspired and inspired translation. The same thing can be said of the mythical Septuagint. If there was an official Greek translation of the Old Testament, then today's scholars will love to scream, a translation can't be inspired. Believe and promote that very thing about the Septuagint, the LXX. This belief that Matthew was originally written in Hebrew derives from the subscription of 3 minuscule Greek New Testament manuscripts contained in the Gospels 13, 124, and 201. The claim which appears in the one subscription of minuscule manuscript 13 and in the colophons of the remaining 2 manuscripts reads, the Gospel of Matthew was originally written in Hebrew 8 years after the Ascension. Mark in Latin 10 years after the Ascension. Luke in Greek 15 years after the Ascension. And John 32 years after the Ascension. Minuscule 13 is a 13th century copy of the Gospels. It is incomplete in that Matthew, a lot of verses behind it, Mark chapter 1 and some verses, John 16, 17, 21, and other verses are missing. It contains 170 leaves and is located in a national library in Paris under the listing GR50. Minuscule 124 is also a gospel manuscript. It was written in the 11th and 12th century that lacks Luke 23, 31 to 24, and 28. It contains 188 leaves and is housed in the Austrian National Library in Vienna under the listing POGR 188S. Minuscule 201 is a manuscript of the entire New Testament and is complete. It was written in 1357 by a scribe by the name of Methodius. It contains 493 leaves. It is located in the British Library in London under the listing ADD 11837. These are the sole testimonies concerning this subject. No manuscript nor manuscript portion has ever been found of the Matthew's Gospel written in Hebrew. It is likely that the false claim appeared in one of these manuscripts and was then copied into the other two when it was reproduced. That's interesting. Okay. 117 ain't that long, but I'm just going to wait on that. 119 is pretty short. 119 longer, I think. Yeah, 119 is pretty long. Wow, 119 is pretty long. Whoa! I think 119 is the biggest one in the book. Yeah, it is. See how many pages this thing takes up. 117 to 170. Question 119 takes up 60. Question 119 takes up about 60 pages, close to 60 pages. That's how. This is question 119 right here. You see the thickness of the book? This is 119 right here. Whoa, that's like 7 parts, man. Wow, that's a big one. And let's see what that's all about again. What's wrong with the English Standard Version? That's what that was all about. He goes really in depth to tell you what's wrong with the ESV. Okay, so I'm going to end it right here, y'all. I'm going to wait a little bit for it to download because it's got more download power here. So anyway, I hope that's helped somebody. And we're going to go to question 17 and 18 later on. Probably not today, though. And then we got 119. That's going to be a big one. And then after that, we'll have 5 more questions. We'll be done with third answer book. Might do a couple others. Anyway, something else regarding translators or something. You never know. All right, y'all. Well, y'all take it easy. Hope you have a great day. I'm going to go home and get ready. Take me a nap and sweating a little bit. Have a good one. We'll see you.